going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Two Thumbs Down Podcast. I'm your host, Luke. My co-host, Christian, is out with some wisdom teeth surgery, so he has me doing the intro. But we just wanted to say thank you for listening again. Please give this a good rating on your iTunes or your Stitcher, whatever you're listening to. And on today's episode, we have an interview with Cult Popture's Richard Martin, who was kind enough to sit down, talk with us about some shit like The Simpsons and The Walking Dead. So, like I said, if you could just give a good rating for us, that'd be great. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we put videos of our episodes up. That would help us out a lot too. So, thank you guys, and we'll see you later. So, how long have you guys been doing your podcast?
I think we started like June last year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, so it's like 30, got to be like 34, 35 episodes now, so we do it fortnightly, but then we did a, like off-week podcasts as well for a while, but we stopped them, but we're looking at bringing them back soon. It's
tough that we usually do weekly. I mean, we've only been going for about 2 months, but, it's tough to consistently get out, like, funny and good content on a weekly basis, so I can see why you'd want to do two.
Yeah, well, I mean, more than anything, it's just to give us time to watch the films, really.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, doing the off-week ones, like, the off-week ones would just be like, oh, we're talking about Wonder Woman and the future of the DC Cinematic Universe. So it was more like, just kind of like seeing what conversation was there that week, and sometimes we play like games. Like we did an episode where we did that game where you like put a character on your forehead and guess it, and just like because we needed to put out content, but because we got into that mindset of like we just have to do something, we sort of lost the spirit of it, I guess.
Do you guys do YouTube or just podcasts?
Yeah, so we've got a YouTube channel, and like the Cult Popture originally started as a YouTube channel, and it's so mostly AJ, my co-host, he makes a lot of video essays and stuff. He did a series of minute-long video essays because I mean, who has time to watch a normal length one? But we're starting up a new, hopefully, fingers crossed, potentially starting up a new YouTube video series that I'll be involved in with a bit more, but it's we're not quite ready to announce it just yet, but it's should be a lot of fun, hopefully.
That's cool, man. We have somebody animating our stuff, which is pretty interesting. I've never seen like...
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
That is really cool.
But yeah, man. All right, we'll plug in everything at the end of this. I figure we may as well get the conversation out of the way first. But
everybody knows The Simpsons, but I always wonder if it was like an international thing rather than just like a American thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's probably the same as it is now. Like, it's kind of just there, and everyone kind of knows it's still going, but no one really watches it. I mean, in its heyday, it was huge.
The past couple years, I don't know if it fell short or I just kind of gave up on it, but there was a very distinct point for me where I was a huge Simpsons fanboy, and it got to the point where I think it was around like season 5 or 6. The content just really changed and it got weird. I kind of gave up on it. So do you still keep up with it?
I followed it week to week up until as late as 18, 19. Like, I definitely noticed seeing a drop in quality, but stuck with it for a while. But I mean, I still sort of check out the occasional episode when it's got like an interesting guest star or it sounds like it has a cool premise. But other than that, I mean, it's not bad.
Yeah,
it's just not.
You have this cultural phenomenon with The Simpsons, and back in its day, like I said, everybody knew The Simpsons, and it almost seems like, at least over here, South Park sort of took that in stride and almost replaced it. After The Simpsons movie came out and it got hit with mixed reviews, people started to gravitate towards South Park because people still want that sort of humor, right? Like, culturally relevant stuff, but I don't know why I haven't been keeping up with it. So it's good? You would recommend still watching it?
Yeah, maybe not like every week, but there's still some pretty good episodes in the later ones.
I guess my leading question then would be, you said you noticed a drop in quality. Why do you think there's a drop?
Well, I mean, they changed showrunners and stuff, which is obviously something, but it got more mean-spirited, and there's one joke that I remember pinpointing the downfall was Bart was in a hay baler kind of thing, and he drove over all this stuff, and so he drove over some wheat and a hay bale comes out the other side. He drives over a lake and a cube of water comes out the other side, and then he drives over a pile of manure and a copy of Pirates of the Caribbean 3 comes out the other side. And it's like, I hate Pirates of the Caribbean 3. It's one of the worst movies.
It's like, fucking awful. It's horrible.
But that joke is like, it's an easy target. You've never really jabbed at current media so much that it dates it. It's like Family Guy's kind of shtick.
Do you think if they had more free reigns, like in terms of South Park, how they kind of pushed the edge of what's controversial or not, do you think if The Simpsons had more leeway with it, they would do more, I guess, edgy, controversial stuff like South Park, or do you think like they would just keep what they're doing now?
I don't know. I think there's probably part of The Simpsons rule book is to not go too far in that direction because they want to still be this icon. They do their Treehouse of Horrors and some of them get pretty weird. That's their like kind of one chance to stretch their legs once a year where they can kind of do something a bit weirder. But they've been doing more concept episodes lately. Morgan Spurlock, who did Supersize Me, is directing a 60-minute documentary episode that treats the events of the episode Homer at the Bat as like a like softball legend, and so it's like they're interviewing all the guest stars from that episode and like retelling the story of it, which is kind of like a cool concept.
That's awesome. And I also think like you know, you pose the question like, and people juxtapose The Simpsons and South Park together all the time, and I think that's sort of low-hanging fruit because like The Simpsons in its own right, I mean, I just looked on IMDb and they have 629 goddamn episodes.
Yeah.
That's
insane.
That's insane.
It really is.
And I don't understand how they haven't run out of content or you know, original ideas, and maybe they kind of have. And maybe that has something to do with the drop in quality. And I watch those old episodes still, you know, but...
Oh, yeah. They're like... The old episodes are like Shakespearean in how well they're written.
They are. And I guess it might have something to do with, like you said, the change in writers, or just a change in like a cultural dynamic where it seems like The Simpsons kind of came out in a time when the world like needed The Simpsons, and it got to the point now where there's so many knockoffs, like you mentioned Family Guy or South Park or whatever. I don't know if knockoff, but kind of inspired by The Simpsons, really, where The Simpsons sort of falls behind. In that sense.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, love or hate The Simpsons as it is now, you can't deny that the TV would be so different at the moment without The Simpsons.
Absolutely.
Like, it was to like, come out with a cartoon that adults can enjoy as well, but it's still so cleverly written, those early ones, but, I mean, like, it's interesting you look at, they did a like... documentary of it must have been like 20th or 25th anniversary, and it has like Seth MacFarlane is in it, and he's like praising The Simpsons, and he's saying like, you know, like this got him into cartoons, this got him into like comedy, and I think there's a lot of love for The Simpsons, like with these like knockoff shows, and I think they all know that they're only there because of The Simpsons, no matter how much sort of fun they poke at it. Like, you know, Family Guy and South Park have both had their fair share of jabs at The Simpsons, but, like... That's really interesting. Everyone understands that, you know, you can't have TV at the moment without The Simpsons.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's especially, like, you know, Luke, you mentioned the, you know, like the term edgy, or like pushing the limits or whatever. Yeah. And... you know, back in the early days of The Simpsons, like, what they were doing, like, was, like, overboard to some people. Yeah. You know, and I guess now maybe it's just sort of people have become, I guess, adjusted or desensitized sort of to that idea of, like, a cartoon not being just for children. And now you have, like, BoJack Horseman, which is not at all a children's show. I mean, it deals with a, you know, suicidal, depressed fucking horse.
Very, very dark drama that just happens to have silly elements.
Yeah.
Right.
Or even Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty, Bob's Burgers, all that stuff. And you're right. I mean, it's definitely... It wouldn't exist without The Simpsons because they paved the way for those shows to have their... room to shine.
Or even in the case of Rick and Morty, where they gave them their own couch gag. Like, it's almost like that's another staple point of The Simpsons, where it's like, we're waiting to see what the couch gag is, you know?
I think the idea of the couch in The Simpsons is, like, in its own right, a cultural staple. Like, even if you're not a fan of The Simpsons, you know, like, the couch. Like, and I remember when I was a kid, like, really, really young, I would watch it every Thursday night with my dad, and I just wanted to see the couch. I didn't get any of the jokes, but, you know, that's the influence that they had. And I guess kind of where it fell short, probably past season 6, you're right, that's a little early. I guess after the movie, I guess I kind of, it just, I don't know. It seemed so different from the old school Simpsons, and I noticed a very distinct change in the show that I grew up with and the show that I loved. And then there's this movie where there's just a lot of, I don't know, like, marketing and kind of like pandering even and that kind of stuff, and it just wasn't that funny to me. I don't know. Did you like the movie?
Yeah, I enjoyed the movie. Yeah, I remember going to see it opening day. Yeah, I was a big fan, and I haven't watched it in probably like 6 or 7 years, but there was a period after, I think it must have been after the movie, where the show just got, like, abysmally bad.
Yeah, like, for sure.
I can't, like, I've blocked it out of my memory now, but, like, it's like this, just, they were dark, they weren't funny, they were bringing on guest star, like, and also, one of the worst examples is an episode called Lisa Goes Gaga, which is, like, basically, Lady Gaga comes on, and everyone in Springfield worships the ground that she walks on.
Jesus Christ.
It's like, they used to get people on to make fun of themselves, or, like, play characters that fit organically into the world. But
like those old school Conan O'Brien episodes and that kind of stuff. Like, I totally get it.
They did that one, but then since then, they've actually done a couple of really quite good episodes. There was an episode called Barthood, which was a parody of Boyhood, and it's like this, you see Bart grow up and his relationship, it's mostly focuses on his relationship with Grandpa, and that's quite a sweet episode. But there's an episode called Brick Like Me, which I think comes from like season 25, I want to say 24, but it came out around the same time as the Lego movie, and it's done in like Lego style, but apparently it was in production way longer than the Lego movie. It was like before they found out about the Lego movie and stuff like that. But like, this should be the most awful, blatant cash grab episode of The Simpsons, but it's probably the best episode of the last decade. It's
really?
Like a really nice, heartfelt Lisa and Homer story, but it's told through this like gimmick.
That's interesting that you brought that up with the family dynamic, because I think that's kind of what lies at the heart of The Simpsons. Beyond all the humor and the jokes and even some of the darker plot points, you'll have like this element of like this Midwestern family just trying to make it, and I think a lot of people related to that, and I think that's kind of why it got so popular. Yeah,
and like because I mean, at the end of the day, there's like this sort of movement against what they call jerk-ass Homer, which was when, in the later seasons, Homer just became kind of a dick for no reason.
Yeah.
But whereas you look at the early seasons, it's like, at the end of the day, no matter what horrible thing he does, he always loves his family, and it's always for them. And it's not like, they don't beat you over the head with it. It's not like you don't roll your eyes at the end of every episode, but it's just like that sort of family dynamic is there. And I mean, like, this is like a good church-going family. Like,
right.
You look at like we say, it was like edgy back then, but you look at the sort of characters you have on TV now. It's like these characters went to a church every Sunday and like feared God, and they were like the edgy ones. And now that's kind of seen as like a bit too sort of clean for TV now.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And I think kind of what kind of paved the way, or the next stone in that trail, would be Futurama, and that kind of led into that, I don't want to say desensitization to that, but kind of idea that like you can push it further than that. And Futurama dealt with a lot more kind of like there was a lot more sexual humor, there was a lot more grotesqueness to it, and I mean, honestly, people get mad at me, but I like Futurama better than The Simpsons.
Yeah, no, I'd say that's fair enough. I mean, when you've got a smaller sample size, it's easier to say blanket statement, Futurama's better. But like, I definitely think that's probably one of the like pinpointable moments of when The Simpsons sort of started going downhill is when Matt Groening and some of the creative team went on to do Futurama instead. And then The Simpsons kind of just got left with like the skeleton, because it is about that time, because it was season 9's the official end of the golden era,
right,
with the specifically the Principal and the Pauper episode where it's revealed that Seymour Skinner isn't actually Seymour Skinner. He's an army vet named Harmon Tanzarian.
I saw a really good YouTube sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I saw a really good YouTube video essay on that episode, and the guy went through this big critical analysis of that distinct turning point from that episode, and it just turned a lot of people off, because you had this character that people for 9 seasons had come to know and love and relate to, and he was just part of American TV and whatever, and then they just changed it or kind of shoehorned in this weird backstory that just didn't need to exist.
You jumped the shark, essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the jump the shark moment, and like it's kind of insulting to the audience, where it's like, hey, you loved this character, well, guess what? You're an idiot for buying into our trap.
So you can't
I can see why people were pissed off, but yeah, I've seen that video. That's the day The Simpsons died, I think.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
It's a good essay, because it's like it points out it's not a bad episode by any means. You watch it and it's like it's still got some amazing jokes in it, but like it's insulting, and it's just not really in line with anything they've done before.
You can't really talk about The Simpsons without mentioning the Treehouse of Horrors or the Halloween specials and stuff. I mean, for me, those are my best memories of The Simpsons, and they used to scare the shit out of me when I was a kid. Yeah, they're terrifying. Mm-hmm. I mean, I used to get the Halloween specials. I was real young, and I would watch them by myself, and they'd freak me out. I mean, some of them dealt with like really out there, cosmic, weird shit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Treehouse of Horrors?
Oh, I love the 3D one when Homer Cubed, where he goes through the wall behind the bookshelf and enters the 3D world. Because I remember like watching a documentary on that at like an IMAX theater in Australia. It's like there's the vaguest, there might be like 3 memories smashed together, but that's how I remember it. But that's a really cool one. I think in that one there's like the Nightmare on Elm Street parody.
That's a great episode. Great episode.
The Shining parody. I think it's like the 3.
Yeah.
That's probably the best Treehouse of Horror in terms of like the 3 stories are all great.
I imagine they're going to do something like with It or something this one coming up.
They always kind of do something culturally relevant. So that's the thing. Like I'll always watch Treehouse of Horrors, but I won't watch it week to week. And I think a lot of people have that same outlook with it now. And the fact that the writing has picked up, like you said, and it's gotten a little bit better, that might change. And I'd like to see them kind of come back into the limelight. But also, you kind of have this thought that, I mean, they're on what, like 29 fucking seasons now? That's insane. Like, at what point will it end?
Yeah. I mean, 30 would be a nice place to end, but it's interesting you say about how the Treehouse of Horror, that they should do like It. Because, I mean, they've got Krusty the Clown, like, it would be perfect for parody of It.
Yeah, exactly.
But, they just released a Treehouse of Horror, and we watched it last night, and it's a parody of Coraline. Is like one of them.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's it was fine, but like, who cares about Coraline anymore?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, like that would have been awesome. I guess 10 years ago, it would have been awesome. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and so it's like they got Neil Gaiman to voice Snowball the cat in it, and like it's done in the like sort of claymation 3D animated style, but it's just like, why don't you do this 10 years ago? I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, right. Really.
Yeah.
You kind of like the Treehouse of Horrors sort of went through a phase of becoming like just chances to jump on any kind of movie reference and without having any of the horror stuff. So whereas like it used to be parodies of The Shining, Nightmare on Elm Street, like classic horror films or like styles of horror. Even doing like there was the episode they did, I think it might have even been the first one, where there was the Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. And that's one of the best ones, with James Earl Jones narrating.
Yeah. But
then they just did like, Transformers is a movie. Let's just do a segment that's a parody of Transformers, and for no reason.
We talk about that a lot on our podcast. It seems like people are in movie studios, production companies, even a lot of TV. they're making things that just do not need to exist. And I don't know if it's a result of, like, kind of pandering to this nostalgia wave of, like, 80s, like Stranger Things. The new It movie was set in the 80s. And I think that might have a big effect on why The Simpsons is still around, because people hold it so close to their hearts in a nostalgic light rather than, like, it's still a great show.
Yeah. I've described it before as being like a grandparent that you sort of, you maybe like grew up with and you're really close to, and they were like part of your family kind of thing. And then they got put in a home and you didn't see them as much anymore. And like eventually they sort of started, their mind wasn't quite all there, and you'd go see them and they would look like them, but it was just not quite the same, and then eventually you always kind of know that they're there, and you should visit them more often than you do, and then one day you found out that they passed away or that The Simpsons has been cancelled, and it's like, on one hand, it's kind of, you can't really be sad because you didn't enjoy the last sort of 10 years of the life, but on the other hand, it's like there was this thing that was so integral to your growing up that is now gone.
That's a fantastic metaphor. Really. Yeah, and I definitely agree with you.
So, I guess ballpark. Where do we all put them? Like, how much time do they have left to live?
I would say The Simpsons, at least for me, they're like Alzheimer's shell of a human being, like in the old folks' home, like you said, but they're still there.
Yeah.
But like I just mentioned earlier, you kind of want to end their suffering. Like it just doesn't. I feel like it's almost tarnishing the legacy of the show by having almost 30 seasons. It's probably about time to shut it down.
Yeah, I mean, I can go for 30, but like I'd love them to end it on good terms, because there was talk of it almost ended a few seasons ago because there was a pay dispute, and I would hate The Simpsons to end because the voice actors weren't getting paid enough,
right?
And they just or God forbid one of them dies,
really, because
the Italian voice of Homer that did it for like 26 years passed away like a year or two ago, and it's like to lose any of these people would be like horrible, and they're not getting any younger, and like some, they're in their like 70s, 80s now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say end it on your own terms, like even doing another movie or something like that to really send it off in style and make sure everyone get your writers back. Like I'm sure Conan would come back and consult just to get his name on the last episode. But
for sure.
It needs to be done right, and I think they need that lead in time. But then at the same time, it's like, how could you ever end The Simpsons?
Right, that's the other question.
Been 30 years.
It's just this never-ending, infinite, phenomenon that has been consistently around for. I mean, when did it come out? When did the first episode even air? I mean, it was
like 89.
89, right? Yeah. So that's a long time for a show to be around, and I mean, it's been around all my life. So the idea of a show like that's just been there forever, just kind of, I don't know, dying or falling apart because of writers or payment or whatever, like you just mentioned, that is kind of heartbreaking. But I'd love to see it wrapped up in a nice bow and give Homer the ending that he deserves and whatever. But I don't know if we're gonna get that. I really don't.
Yeah, it's becoming less and less like hopeful that we're gonna get the proper ending, but I mean, I wouldn't want to be in the position of having to write an ending for it. I mean, I've read a few things on like one of I think it was Al Jean, who's like the one that's credited with ruining The Simpsons, is like he said, he'd love it for the last episode to end with them going to Lisa's like Christmas pageant, which was where how the first episode begins, is they're on the way to this dance thing.
Yeah. And
that's what Futurama kind of did, is just implying that the whole series is an infinite loop, but they wouldn't work for The Simpsons. I mean, you could do birthdays or like a montage of the rest of their lives, but I mean, we've seen that so many times already, so many different versions of how they grow up, so
right.
Yeah, it's hard because they've done so much already.
That always kind of interested me, like the timeline with The Simpsons, because in a lot of recurring shows, week-to-week shows, characters don't really age or have much of, I don't want to say character development, but they don't really have much growth past the point of, okay, this is Homer. Homer's a dad and he's funny. This is Lisa, etc. And then you just kind of know the characters. But the fact that the show's been going on for such a long time, you would almost think that it's in like some kind of like alternate universe or something. So I'd be interested to see if they ended it on some kind of time loop or something. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's like this like time, the floating timeline sort of theory, because it's interesting. Like, there was a lot of backlash. They did an episode where it flashed back to Homer and Marge in college, and it was during the 90s. It was called That 90s Show. It's like this flashback, and it's like you can't talk about the 90s without talking about one of the biggest cultural, like, behemoths of the 90s, which was The Simpsons.
Right.
So. And that got a lot of flack because it's like The Simpsons has gone on too long now where they're flashing back to do period pieces about a time when they existed. But it's...
Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah.
Because like every episode seems to take place in present day in terms of the technology they have and everything like that. But the one thing that's always consistent, so when the show started in 89, or like, getting into the first few seasons, they flash back to Homer and Marge in high school, and it's the mid to late 70s. Like, that made sense then, but now when you're in like 2000, 2010, 2015, you're flashing back to Homer and Marge, it's always late 70s and when they're in high school.
Yeah.
So there's like this theory that's the only, them in high school or them meeting at the dance or like meeting in detention is like the one constant in this universe, and everything else floats around that.
That's really interesting. I've read a lot of like weird, fan theories about The Simpsons. Have you ever heard the theory that Homer was in a coma?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make the biggest amount of sense, but I mean, you can... It was all a dream. The character was in a coma. Those are the kind of two fan theories you can apply to anything.
I hope they don't, kind of drop the ball with that, though. Like, I that's such a cop-out. That can't be the,
Yeah, no, I can't imagine they'd do anything like that. But then, however, the last time I was super confident about a series finale and actually used the words like, there's no way they can screw this up, they would actually have to try to make it bad, was How I Met Mother. And
that was quite bad.
That ruined the entire series. I literally can't go back and watch How I Met Your Mother now because I know how it ends. These are all my favorite shows.
Is there a good ending to a series, though? I mean, like, some of my favorite shows have just absolutely repugnant endings. I mean, Lost, the Lost ending. I'm getting sick just talking about it. I'm watching The Sopranos again, like, it's so hard to end a show like that where everybody loves it so much. I guess Breaking Bad, maybe.
Yeah, dude, definitely. Breaking Bad, probably the best ending.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I love the ending to Lost, and I've argued countless hours about it. But for me, the ending of Breaking Bad was kind of like for such a twist and turny show. It kind of ended a little too nicely. I mean, like, it was still a perfect ending, but it's like, everyone got what they wanted, and it's like, yeah.
I remember watching it, as it aired, and the last shot of Jesse driving away into the sunset, whatever, and then, cut to black. The next commercial that came on was Jesse in a car for Need for Speed, the Need for Speed movie.
Yeah, man.
It was. I don't know if it was like an intentional pun because like he had a need for speed, like his meth addiction.
Ugh.
Yeah, dad joke. I know, but yeah, that was really weird for me. I don't know. I also didn't love the Breaking Bad ending, but I think they did a much better job than The Sopranos. But preceding that, I'm sorry, I'm a huge Lost fan, but can you please defend that goddamn ending to me?
Well, okay. So what's your like interpretation of the ending then?
It sucked. I mean, I've heard that they were in purgatory. I've heard that, I've heard all of it. I mean, I've read the books. I was really into Lost. The way that I interpreted it was the writers kind of ran out of ideas.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess, like, I think what sort of pisses me off in the big argument that I sort of have is people that think, they were dead the whole time, which is just not true.
Right.
Like, the Flash Sideways, there was the sort of alternate storyline in season 6. They were dead during that, but I don't know. I just thought it was really nice that, like, they all sort of met up in the afterlife and moved on together because of this big thing they went through. And I mean, the time didn't really exist in the Flash Sideways, so I mean, even if this is just Jax moving on, I mean, he was our main character, the show opens with his eye opening. Like, this was him sort of, he needed to make good with with his father and with everything that happened on the island before he could move on to the afterlife. And I mean, you know, I don't know, whatever sort of version of the afterlife you subscribe to, the idea that there's this sort of, you die and then there's this middle place, and that's your chance to kind of make everything right before you move on to the good place, as it were.
I can dig that. I mean, it seems to me like a big theme of Lost was sort of just really, at its core essence, Jack making amends with the people around him. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's a big thing in the entire show, is that everyone was there for a reason. They've got something they need to make right, or something that's not right about themselves. And I think, yeah, that's a pretty, yeah, that was kind of the main theme of Lost. And so to then end on that note, I was like, yeah, this is a sensible place to end.
Okay, I accept that. That's pretty good. All right, yeah,
really?
I'll take that. Yeah, that's all right. I usually get so pissed about Lost ending stuff. Oh God! All right, that was pretty good.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing was that the studio demanded they put something extra at the end of the show to nicely transition to the next show. And so after Jack's eye closing, this beautiful final shot,
right? That was awesome.
Cut to footage, like just shots of the empty wreckage on the beach, which was just like production stills they'd taken early on, but people took that to mean, oh, no one survived.
That's interesting.
That's what pisses me off.
I mean, I kind of interpreted it that way, but you're probably right that it was rather than that, it was just production stuff or whatever. Yeah, interesting.
Like, yeah, you weren't supposed. The show ends with Jack's eye closed.
Yeah, which is the first shot of the show. I mean, that was a big plot point in the show. Is that eye that was awesome. Okay, all right, The Walking Dead. Can we talk about The Walking Dead?
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
All right, Luke's a much bigger fan of The Walking Dead than I am, so I'm gonna let him drive here.
So what was the turning point for you, I guess you said?
Well, for me, it was I stayed with it and I enjoyed. I think it was season 6 or 7, the one that ends with the big Negan cliffhanger where he comes out and says, "I'm going to kill one of you guys," and then we don't see who it is. And like, for me, that's just bad storytelling. And you can do a cliffhanger there, but like, doing it on that actual moment is so stupid. Like, I would have preferred if Negan had come out and said, "Oh, I bet you're all in Pea Pants City right now," and then the episode ends there.
Yeah.
Like, because you give us this beautiful monologue of like, and you're like, "Oh my, Jeffrey Dean Morgan is Negan. This is so great." Mm. And then, oh, by the way, you're gonna have blue balls for 9 months.
Yeah, pretty much. And all those different, like, I guess people like put those YouTube videos out where they're like, if you look at the shadow over here, you can see that it was this person. It's just like, are you kidding me right now?
Right.
Like,
another thing that fucked me off with The Walking Dead is the mid-season finales. And there's so many filler episodes that they do not need to have a break between the series. It does not need to exist. The Walking Dead, in and of itself as a show, is like the majority of it is filler. And like that, it's hard to get through sometimes. I mean, I like the show. I'm a fan of the show. I just watched the premiere, but I can't watch the show without getting mad at the show.
I think that's more of a AMC thing rather than because they did that for Breaking Bad too. Like,
they did a lot of that with Breaking Bad.
So I think it's more of an AMC thing than it is with the show. But you're right. Like, even like some of the seasons are just like absolutely boring. Like the whole second season on the farm. Like, good God, there was episodes when like no zombies were like no zombies showed up. Which I know they're trying to do character development, but that's the whole show is zombies. So at least show me some zombies.
The argument for that I hear often is like, oh, you just want to watch like an action show or whatever. But it's not that. The zombies are the driving force behind the show. You can't have The Walking Dead with no walkers.
Yeah.
And I've also heard the argument that the zombies are not The Walking Dead, the people are Walking Dead because they're all diseased. Well, I thought that was pretty interesting. Go ahead.
I kind of like that. And I mean, I've heard both sides of the argument, but like the human drama just isn't good enough.
It's not. It's not that good. Like,
Like, it's the golden age of television right now, and you just there's not enough time to watch a bad show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many. Like, I've got so many shows on my infinite list that I need to watch, and I can't waste my time watching 10 filler episodes of Walking Dead for like the first episode. The fourth episode's usually good, and then the mid-season finale and premiere. Like, you just can't.
There's no time for it. Another thing, I fucking hate Rick, and I know he'll never die until the show ends.
Yeah.
But
well, apparently it's, according to Robert Kirkman, it's Carl's story, and he says anyone can die, including Rick. But I mean, I personally think it's bullshit.
I think that's bullshit too.
I don't think he's going to die.
Do you think they'll kill Coral?
Maybe. Who knows, man? I mean,
he honestly though. Coral is the one character that I enjoy watching on screen in that show. Like, every scene that he's in, sans the first couple seasons where he was annoying.
Yeah.
Like, he actually has an arc where he becomes this kind of desensitized, like, warrior, essentially. And Rick, his arc, it turns from, jaded, like, edgy family man guy into absolute narcissistic, like, just sociopath, basically. Whereas...
Yeah, but he's way worse than anyone they've taken on.
He definitely is. And another thing that I take issue with is you get attached to these characters, and I get that it's kind of low-hanging fruit, but they switch out characters so often that I don't give a shit about anybody that's on there right now. Like, I don't care about Tara. I don't care about anybody other than, Rick, Coral, Michonne, and Daryl.
Yeah.
And anybody else, like, I mix their names up. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like, especially, and like, this is a problem, is that, like, when a new black character gets introduced, you're like, well, see ya, Tyrese. I guess you're going in the next 2 episodes.
Right,
yeah,
right,
really.
Yeah.
It's happened like every single, like, Tyrese comes and then they kill off T-Dog, and give him his first line in 3 seasons. But like, and then Gabriel comes along, and then we get rid of Tyrese. And then the guy from Everybody Hates Chris comes along, and we get rid of another one. And it's like, yeah, it's.
I'm surprised they haven't
too much of a pattern.
Yeah, or even that. Who's the? Was it Chris? Was that the one that was with the glasses?
Yeah,
he's the one from Straight Outta Compton.
I think so.
Yeah, he's just gone. Like, they haven't even explained what the hell's up with him. He just like left.
I'm surprised they haven't caught more flack for that, like having like a token black person or whatever, like that, because they definitely do that. And I understand that, but like that's not really like good.
I mean, I haven't heard any like people complaining about it.
Yeah, but he had.
But no, I get the point. But I've never seen anyone.
Yeah, no, that's
about
interesting.
It's a very interesting point.
Yeah.
There's like some very sweaty executives at AMC that are just hoping no one notices.
We have this secret agenda. We hope we just want people just to find out.
So the point of the episode is The Walking Dead is a parallel for neo-Nazism. Is that correct?
Is it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But, I mean, even like, are you like a fan of the comics at all?
Yeah, I was. I read up to maybe like 120 or something like that.
Okay.
And there's so, like, for now that they've kind of gone past where I was up to in the comics, I'm less interested. Maybe if I read it again, I'll get excited again. But like, for a while I was watching it just because I was like, oh, I know this cool moment from the comics is coming up. Like, the one of my favourite moments that they nailed is when I can't remember her name, but when they're Alexandria's getting overrun by zombies, and the woman that like Rick's just had a thing with is getting eaten by zombies and is holding Carl's hand, and Rick's not even torn for a second. He just cuts her hand off.
Yeah.
With his little hatchet, and that was awesome. But then on the flip side of that, at the end of whatever season, I think 4, when they're trapped at Terminus, and they're like, they're going to feel so stupid when they realise, and they're like, realise what? And there's this big dramatic pause, and the camera zooms right up into Andrew Lincoln's face, and he says, they're screwing with the wrong people.
Yeah.
And it's like, how did that get, like, because, they say, like, AMC, like, allows 1 F-word per season, because that's what they set up Breaking Bad. But as far as I'm aware, that was a Breaking Bad writers imposed limit. Mm-hmm. Like, they said, oh, you know, we want to give that word power. And BoJack Horseman does the same thing. It's like, you give that word more power by using it very sparingly. But, like, they're on cable. They can do whatever they want. Just use the word. And, I mean, they filmed it with him dropping the F-bomb. And Andrew Lincoln has said, like, he felt dirty saying screwing, because it felt wrong, and he knew he was screwing over this, like, literally screwing over this, like, amazing moment from the comics, and they recorded it with the F word. He said it felt so much better, and it was on the DVD, and if you just go out and watch the correct ending, even this, like, 30-second clip gives me goosebumps, and, like, even not really as a fan of the show anymore, I still just love hearing Andrew Lincoln say, they're fucking with the wrong people.
Yeah.
And it's, like, removed from anything. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they even did that, because, like, if you read, like, the comics, Negan says that, like, almost every line. And I think they even the whole scene where they meet Negan for the first time, they did, like, what you were talking about, they recorded it with them saying fuck, so it's like, and we talked about this, like, last week, like, how, I never understood how they can, like, get around that. Like, I know you said they recorded it, but, like, how can they, like, even, like, in other shows, like, The People vs. O.J. Simpson, or, like, just other shows where they just, like, start dropping them. Like, I didn't think, like, wasn't there, like, some FCC guidelines, like, they can't say it?
I always found this to be just ridiculous, because, especially with the state of television today, where, I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that there's more good TV out right now than there are good movies coming out. Especially at the rate that it's coming out. I mean, there's HBO constantly has good stuff. There's even good stuff happening on your basic cable networks. Mm-hmm. But with FCC regulations, especially here in America, I'm not sure about New Zealand, but you cannot say the F word on a show. But for some reason, over the past, maybe year or so, that has lightened up. But it has led to some absolutely terrible abortions of dialogue, particularly in The Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. Because you'll hear lines that, like, that's not what the writers wanted.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't want to say that. That's terrible. But you'll still get lines like you said. They're screwing with the wrong people, and it sounds so hammy and so stupid that it takes you right out of the show. I mean, it absolutely breaks immersion for you.
Yeah, I mean, like, it is, dare I say it, like, an American thing. Is that, like, and it's to me it's so backwards. And when I was at film school, I wrote a few thousand word essay on censorship and this kind of stuff. But like that, at some point in their life, everyone is, well, I say everyone, but like, most people are going to see a naked body.
Yeah.
Or like, well, I mean, they're going to see their own, I guess, anyway. But like, you're going to see a naked body, you're going to hear swear words, but not everyone is going to shoot someone in the head or see, like, someone get sliced in half. Mm-hmm. And yet, that's how what America decides is okay to see, or, like, the FCC decides is okay to see. It's like, no, you can't hear these words. You hear, like, if you go to any, like, grade school, I think is the correct term for you guys. We call it primary school.
Yeah.
But, like, and you'll hear those words. Like, that's just how people talk. But then, and, you just look down and there's a 50-50 chance you're seeing a naked body of, like, a different gender, or, like, it will look a certain way. But, like for some reason, that's not okay, and yet blood and guts and violence and gore is. And there's that story about on Hannibal. There was these two naked female bodies being hung from the ceiling, mm-hmm. and the censors said, we can see a bit too much of their butt crack. Could we cover it with blood, maybe?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
And then so they got away with it.
Oh my God.
I've never heard that. That's crazy. I mean, that's just... Yeah. I mean, that stands for everything you just said, but, like, you look at, stuff off network, like premium channels, like HBO and stuff. I mentioned earlier that I'm rewatching The Sopranos, and that was one of the first shows that wasn't afraid to show, like, a woman's breast.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't afraid to have people speak in a dialogue that wasn't, censored by a bunch of old people. Mm-hmm. And it made the show all that better, because the show is actually realistic, and you don't really get that with network TV these days. But like you were saying earlier, I do think it's absurd that you'll have, like, grotesque killings and stuff. Even on The Walking Dead, like we were just saying, like, I mean, you can see zombie brains and stuff, but, like, the thought of you know, a woman or Rick cursing or whatever is like, that's the no-no?
Yeah.
What is that? I think The Walking Dead in particular would be 100 times better if the writers were given the creative freedom to let them speak in a dialect that wasn't used by my grandmother.
Yeah, I think especially, like, for instance, if you put The Walking Dead on HBO, it'd be miles better, because presumably, I mean, it's a lot of the HBO shows have this format, but, like, sticking to a 10-episode season, The Walking Dead would be improved markedly by getting rid of 6 episodes per season.
Yes.
Yeah, they definitely would
Like,
be.
Each season can start and end in the same place, but the journey take 6 hours out of it because you don't need it.
I heard whenever they were first shipping the plot of The Walking Dead to, like, other networks, I think I forget, I think it was Robert Kirkman, I think, when he was talking about it, he said that they went to NBC and they literally told him, we like the idea, but do they have to have zombies in it?
Jesus.
And I'm like, wait, what? Like, and I heard that, and he was like just dumbfounded. Like, well, that's the whole point of the show, guys. Like,
that's a testament to everything.
Yeah,
that's a testament to everything wrong with American culture and American TV, though.
Mm-hmm.
Is like the idea of a show being about anything other than in a world where a divorced dad is with a wife that's way too hot for him, and the kids are up to no good. Like that, anything straying from that is backwards to people here, and it's ridiculous. And I think that's why Breaking Bad was so successful, though, because it kind of broke that mold on network TV.
And I think especially on a network like AMC too, who what did they have before that? Like Firefly.
Firefly was good.
Okay, but that was like it. Like
Firefly was Fox, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Okay, well,
I think AMC until Mad Men and Breaking Bad was just movie reruns, as far as I was.
Yeah, like bad movie reruns.
Yeah, that's why it's so like daring that they just like took a chance on like Walking Dead, Mad Men, and Breaking Bad. And, like, they're probably one of the most iconic like TV shows in modern day history. You know, for now. Anyway.
Sure.
But
I mean, in terms of what we talked about on this episode, I think both of the shows that we cover kind of have that theme of they're dying, and it's about time to shut it down.
Yeah.
The Walking Dead, frankly, for me, they could have ended it, 2 or 3 seasons ago. It's just to the point where the writing is lazy, the characters are stale, and the plot is just, it's recycled. I mean, there's a fucking tiger on the show now. Like, what? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but you see, that goes back to the comics, too, you know what I mean?
I know.
I know what you're saying, but like...
It's so out there now where it's just like, nobody's watching it other than diehard fans and people who have watched it from the beginning.
Yeah.
And, like, that's all they care about is money, and they're not getting that money. Like, nobody's watching the show anymore. So, it's probably time to shut it down and let it die peacefully, because it's going to meet a bad end.
It's interesting at the same time, like, The Walking Dead's another show that's like, how do you end it?
Right.
Like, they're not going to win. Like, I would hate to see them do a cure.
Yes,
because,
me too.
Like, they'll just be stupid. Or like, oh, we've killed all the zombies now. Let's just, the virus is gone. Let's
live in peaceful
I guess
anarchy.
They could do somehow they can't infect new people or something like that. But then, I mean, they did the thing of like, we all have it. And I remember thinking it like, when I was, because I think I started watching when season 3 was airing, but like I binged it, and at the end of season 1, when the Dr. Jenner, I think his name is, whispers something in Rick's ear, you don't find out what it is till later. But I thought that what he would have whispered would be that Rick was actually like a zombie, a high functioning zombie, basically, because he pretty much dies in the first episode, and then wakes up, and he somehow, and I thought he would somehow have a strain of the virus that allowed him to still function as a normal human being. And I thought that's a cool ass.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
That's really cool in terms if you watch the premiere of the newest season.
Yeah.
Like there's a thing that I caught, but like now that he said that actually makes a little bit of sense. But I mean, in terms of like the comic book, they're still writing that. Like from what I understand, they just got into like Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
So that thing's still going on. I don't know if they're going to end
It'll go on for a very long time.
I don't know.
But my point is...
He says he has it planned out for like 300 issues, and they haven't even hit 200 yet. But
that's crazy.
Yeah, the comic has plenty of time left. And so the show will never really run out of plot lines, but I think it will run out of good writing. And I think that's already happened. So
yeah.
I think the only way that I would be happy with it, I liked your theory, but I also like the idea of this kind of impending apocalypse. They know they're all going to die, and it's just a matter of, pushing that off as much as they can and trying to rebuild. But I'd like to just see them, overrun and just,
Or just have like a suicide party.
Not necessarily, but I'd like to see them die, because the zombies, like, the percent of the population in the universe of The Walking Dead that is still human, is absolutely minuscule, if you think about it, right? So the idea of a very small fraction of people being able to rebuild the world doesn't quite roll with me. So, I mean, it only makes sense in terms of the show for the zombies to kind of absorb them in the way that they absorb everybody else. Because, after all, they're just people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I like the idea of, I think it's only... There might be one line of dialogue at the end of Season 1 that discredits this theory, but, just show us the rest of the world and it's fine. But, until Fear the Walking Dead, we didn't even know that most of the United States was screwed. And it's it would be great if the show just ends with them somehow. I mean, I know Fear the Walking Dead, we did a boat, but they get on some kind of boat, make it to the UK, and there's just these perfectly dressed British people who are like, why are you so dirty?
Yeah, hey, what's up, guys? What's going on? Yeah.
That's funny. You brought up the Fear the Walking Dead, and we were just talking about that before we recorded, but to me, that show is dog shit, but it's...
Oh my god.
It's so bad. It's so bad. But it's nothing other than a way for them to fill plot holes that have been driven into by The Walking Dead. Because, like you said, they have a boat in the show.
Yeah.
And they explained away that, oh, yes, it is actually happening in the rest of America, and it is everywhere else. But, that was never explained in the show, so it seems like Fear the Walking Dead is just kind of shoehorned in there to, I don't know, erase their mistakes.
Or make AMC more money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to have Walking Dead-related shows on more.
Around the clock, yeah.
But, do you guys see that they're doing a crossover in the upcoming year at some point?
I did hear that. Yeah, that's interesting. How... isn't Fear the Walking Dead, is it... It's behind The Walking Dead, right? In timeline?
It's maybe a year or two behind. But, okay. And they're on different sides of the country. Or at least they were. But, they said one character from one show will appear on the other. So it could go either way. Someone from The Walking... we could be shown that someone from Fear the Walking Dead survives another year or two and catches up with Rick and his crew. Or, and what I think they might do is we see... Because Abraham, we know, his group went across country, so it would make sense to see Abraham again, especially with him having been killed.
I liked him. I really liked his character.
Yeah, he was a good fan favorite.
Yeah. Him and... go ahead.
Oh, no, yeah, when the during the mid-season finale, the season finale, when we were waiting to see who was going to get killed by Negan, I completely predicted it would be Abraham and Glenn. I was like, the only way that they can come back from this cliffhanger is to keep a twist, and that's to kill two people, and it's so important for Glenn to die for the rest of the story from here on out, but Abraham has had his story wrap up, and also, if I was Negan, and you come out there, you've got Lucille, and everyone is shit scared of you, Abraham was, up on his knee, he wasn't, cowering back, he was staring him straight in the face, as if to say, I'm gonna fuck you up, and he's not gonna kill Rick, he doesn't want to make him a martyr, but I'd take down Abraham, because, you're in this rare, what might be a rare position of power to actually just take out who looks like your strongest enemy, because he's not afraid of you.
No, yeah, definitely. I even think it was...
And also just kill Glenn, because you need to.
Yeah, no, I thought it was
interesting. Get the shock.
Yeah, definitely, because I thought it was interesting. I didn't think they were not going to do...
Glenn?
Yeah, because it was part of the comic books. It was such a, like you said, such an important part of the story. But, I thought it was interesting how they killed Glenn as like a just another
an
shock,
afterthought.
because it was like Daryl stepping out of line was the even reason he killed Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like that's crazy that even happened. But I mean, yeah, like you said, Abraham was such a like almost like a Shane type of character where he didn't take shit from anyone, and like he just you know, it just made sense that they were going to kill him off. But no, that's interesting too.
I think about Shane's character like 5 times a day.
Shane was great. He would not have put up with any of the shit.
I know.
I just, every time I watch the show, I can't not hear, let me tell you something, Rick. Like, I just can't not hear it.
You mean to tell me?
Right.
Yeah, like, oh my god.
But my last point about the show, and we can wrap this up here, is can anybody explain to me the timeline of the show? Because I don't really understand, and they've never really made it concisely clear how long they have been together or surviving.
There is a time jump at one point, like between the end of season 2 and the start of season 3. There's at least 6 months, I think. So at the end of season 2, they're like, "Oh, the prison is like 3 blocks away," and then 6 months later, "Oh, here's the prison," which was weird. And there's that one character that's like this homeless man in a shed who doesn't understand what's happening, and if you think about it too long, like it just completely derails the show even more so. Like there's just no way to explain them. But they skip over winter, which I thought was interesting. Because in the comics, like, winter's quite important because the zombies actually, because they don't have like flowing blood, they freeze during winter.
Yeah.
And so I think that would be kind of cool to show, and maybe they've done it since then. But I think it's like a year and a half, 2 years into the apocalypse now, and then it looks like we're gearing up for the big time jump, which was like in the comics. There's just like one issue it goes, and 2 years of relative peace later. And then we see all new versions of the characters. And it's interesting that, like, 2 years of relative peace is, like, more than double the length of what we've seen so far. But there was, in the Comic-Con trailer, it had Rick with short hair and a way bigger beard, which is the look he rocks after the time jump in the comics.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the reason why they might not do, like, winter shots is because they film it in Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it would... I don't even, like, it would probably just be, like, a waste of money to just, like, CGI snow in, or, like, even more so, like, CGI, like, frozen zombies or whatever.
You would think that they would do something to shake up the show, though. Like, anything. Like, maybe, like, 10 minutes of winter out of 8 seasons.
Well, who knows, man? I mean, like, you know, like he was talking about that Comic-Con trailer, like, with him as Old Man, like, the time jump from All Out War. Like,
yeah.
Like, I mean, have you seen the newest season, or the newest episode yet?
I haven't, no.
Okay, well, I mean, you're halfway through, Chris.
I'm halfway through it.
So it's like, he has, like, these, like, flash forwards to him being an old man, but it also has, like, him, like, these close-up shots of Rick, like, just, like, looks like shit, like he has like just red all under his eyes, and I think that he's like dead or going to die. So I don't know if like that he has like a fever dream of like what his life would be after, but or not. Maybe they do that time jump after All Out War. I don't know.
You would, yeah. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But I mean, can everybody agree that this it's about maybe time to stop?
Oh yeah, at least kill Daryl.
Kill fucking Daryl.
Oh, you would have a fan riot if that happened.
He sucks.
Like,
Yeah.
It's so stupid. He's not interesting. He hasn't been for ages. And, like, I remember it got ridiculous for me when there's a shot of him, he's, like, shooting someone or whatever, and a zombie comes up behind him, grabs him, like, chomps down on his shoulder to the point where, like, his teeth touch Daryl's shoulder, and then it cuts away. And then Daryl's just fine 2 shots later.
He's always been
Like,
invincible.
we don't have to show how he got out of this.
Yeah, or they had to show that Boondock Saints reference. What was that, like season 5 or 6 when they were in the hospital, and like him and Rick both like side by side, like they just had to do that.
Right.
But and he's not even a character in the comics. So
No.
that's the even craziest thing. Like he's a fan favorite, and he's not even in the comics.
Daryl is there to be hot and to be Daryl. That's why he's in the show.
Yeah.
That's his purpose, and people will stop watching if Daryl goes. He needs to go, but that's why he's there.
I give it.
Like,
I give it like 3
stop telling
seasons.
us that. So stop telling us like that no one is safe.
Yeah.
And then just put Daryl. Like, just don't put him in these situations if you're not going to kill him.
Yeah.
Like, they did it with Glenn. Like, they kept on, like, showing, oh, Glenn's dying here. And I guess that kind of if you weren't as like savvy, you'd just think like, oh, Glenn's unkillable like Daryl, to give more shock when they do kill him at the start of last season. But oh man, just get rid of Daryl.
Yeah, honestly, I think I'd say 3-4 seasons tops, and then I don't know, AMC pulls the plug, or not. Maybe they'll just keep pumping money because it's a cash cow right now.
It definitely is. I mean, that's all they got on their network, so we'll see what happens. But listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on our podcast and talking with us. I know you're probably busy, everybody is, but I really appreciate your time.
No, yeah, I had a really good time.
Awesome. Do you want to plug your podcast? I'll splice this in at the beginning if you want.
Oh, yeah, so, all right, well, yeah, if you like movie franchises and all of the kind of movie stuff, give my podcast a check out. It's called Cult Popture. It's like a YouTube channel. We're on Facebook and everything like this. You can find us on there, Cult Popture, like pop culture, but flipped around. We do a fortnightly podcast called Film Franchise Fortnights, where we make ourselves watch a randomly selected different film franchise over a 2-week period, and then we discuss them and we pitch what we think should come next in the franchise. We've done tiny ones like Shanghai Noon, Shanghai Nights, and Sister of the Traveling Pants, and then we just recently did the 14 Land Before Time films, and spoiler alert, they're all terrible. and like we did a Godzilla month where we watched all 31 Godzilla films, and they're a bit more varied than Land Before Time, but they're a good time.
Exactly.
All right, man. Well, I'll shoot you an email with the podcast link whenever we're all set up, and if you ever want to have us on, shoot me an email too, and we'll link up, man.
So yeah, dude. Yeah, man. We're just we're sussing out. Well, I think we're waiting to hear back from someone about this week, but if that ends up happening, maybe on the one after that. But then if not, I'll hit you up in the next week or so.
Awesome. Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great talking to you, man.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yep.
Great times.
Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of Two Thumbs Down Podcast. A big shout out to Richard Martin for shooting the shit with us. If you guys could leave us a good rating on iTunes and even subscribe and like our videos on YouTube, that would help us out a lot. Tune in next week where Christian and I talk about video games, as Halloween is quickly approaching and will probably be over when the next week's episode airs. Anyway, so thanks again, guys, and we'll see you later. Peace.